Hi guys, Chris with Microsoft here with another exciting episode of Let's Tech. This will be the second one. Okay, so I thought we'd do a quick little let's pull down the newly released as of yesterday Windows Server 2012 R2. I chose the VHD version, thought that might be kind of cool. So pulled that down, and it's, where in the heck is it? It's that right there. And so when you push this and accept it, you can extract the server. It'll come out to a folder like this. You can see it's just a virtual machine ready for import. So we're sitting here on a 2012 Hyper-V box. I've already copied this from the desktop over here to my regular Hyper-V folder. I just put all those files right in here. If you're not familiar with Hyper-V and you haven't worked with it much and you want to use this method to get it in, it's real easy. You just go to your Hyper-V manager, right click on the server and say import VM. In my case, I'm going to point it to the folder where we just dumped that. Say select folder. It's going to go search through that. It's going to find the little preview VM, which in this case is called IMPSSDCAVHD, blah blah blah. Click next. I'm always going to say register in place. That way it doesn't try to do an import with any changes. It just kind of takes everything as it is, where it is. And then in this case, I'm going to go ahead and finish it with its configuration right like that. I'm going to make a couple of quick changes to it. Just, I don't know what it's got out of the box. Yeah, so things like this, I'll never run a VM with one processor. That's just bad news. You get one single threaded app that locks or gets really busy, and the OS no longer has access to the processor. So I always like to have at least 2 cores on a VM. It looks like they gave it 2 gigs of RAM. I like to do a startup of 512 and enable dynamic memory. It's just my personal preference. That is, you can do that however you want. That way, if it doesn't need the RAM, and somebody else on this box does, in my little bitty lab environment, they can do that. So what else did they do for defaults here on this little pre-downloaded, pre-packaged VM? It's pretty much all okay with me. Okay, so it does not like specify minimum RAM. Oh, yeah, I can't set minimum RAM to more than startup RAM. You can set it less, and in fact, this, if you didn't watch my What's New in Windows Server 2012 series, I could do 256 megs. You can now set your minimum RAM to less than your startup RAM, so that's kind of exciting. Now, in a real production environment, you would probably never have this configuration, but that's all new stuff here. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and we'll go ahead and start this sucker off. I'm going to go ahead and pull him up in the virtual machine connection, and we'll go ahead and power him on. And I may want to move this to a larger screen resolution just so we can see it. Oh, I love it. Look at the new fish. And we've gone with the beta again. The beta picture in this case, though, is a little bit prettier than the last one. That's really spectacular. Okay, so there's the fish, and that's kind of a tradition at Microsoft where the developers, when they put out a beta, they use a beta fish as part of their boot up sequence, or somewhere like on the desktop, or both. So anyway, let's not just have a video of a non-moving fish, and so I'll pause this until we get up to the desktop. And we've made it to the sign-on screen, so let's Control-Alt-Delete. Okay, I apparently need to go RTFM real fast and figure out what this pre-configured VM's password is. Okay, so on the page where I pulled this down, about 3/4 of the way down, I found it right here. So it's right here, R2 preview with an exclamation point. So good to know that was documented. So R2 capital PREVIEW exclamation point. And we're getting logged in. Okay, so I'm going to stop the recording here, and I'm going to move this screen over to a different resolution real fast, so I can make this fit a little bit better on the screen. There we go. Alright, so I'm back. I've changed the resolution, so we are now looking at the beta, or the R2 preview of this. So it looks like we've still got pretty good view on the server manager. Looks very similar to me. No fish on the desktop background, and looks like a start button has been added at extremely popular request. So my question would be, is my jump list still there? It is. Okay, so this is one of my favorite things about Server 2012. The fact that I can right click here and I get all of these really awesome little menu items. Windows key X gets you the same list, but I'm not in full screen on this VM, so I'm not going to be able to do that. But okay, so this is now called this PC, and in the previous versions we've called that computer. So I haven't looked at the Windows 8 version of that, but when you were my computer before, and then it was computer, and now it's this PC, and then network. So that's a verbiage change, probably to help new people to the IT industry, and also folks who don't work with computers a whole lot, to understand that they are working with this local computer and not something out on the network. So those are distinct. Okay, so I'll have to read those offline and see what they are, but yeah, it looks like the start button does bring us back to the new Windows UI. It's very heavily customizable and easy to use once people get used to it. I know there's been some folks out there who aren't a huge fan of this, but okay, so this is new, this little down arrow, which brings me to all apps. So folks had a little problem with that in the past. The old way was to right click out here in the middle someplace, and that would give you all apps. Looks like now when we right click out here, we have a customize button instead. Oh, so that gives us an easy way to call this, let's say, my stuff, for instance. So still looks like it's pretty easy to customize the start screen here, and also to get to all apps. So let's say I wanted to take my PowerShell ISE and pin that to start. Well, there it is. Yeah, okay, so that should help people to find things who did not intuitively find them by just kind of clicking around before, and found, you know, IT people who claim to have been in this industry for ever and ever and ever came to this and just absolutely freaked out. They said, I'm literally not smart enough to be able to figure this out. Big blocky things are beyond my comprehension. And so we are catering to the people who were unable, you know, some of the smartest people in the world who were unable to look at this, even though my 7-year-old picked it right up and could do anything with this thing. These IT administrators who ran and hid and said, well, I'm going to Apple because I can't deal with this big blocky screen because it's way too complicated for me to be able to understand or figure out. So looks like we've made it a little easier for folks to do that. And I'm only kind of kidding, guys. I know a few of you have expressed hatred and loathing to the start screen, and I'm not directly trying to make fun of you or pick on you or anything. Okay, so the little minus sign looks like it still brings us to the you know, the smaller view where we can kind of drag and drop stuff around. And I'm not sure what I clicked. Oh, I clicked on the control panel. And it does boot to desktop. Now, for those who were not aware, Server 2012 also booted to desktop. Contrary to popular opinion, a few people just heard and read that it didn't. Now, that was Windows 8. Windows 8 booted to the full new Windows UI. And Server was always booting to desktop. It was just that the start button was something that you would see when you kind of hovered your mouse down in here. But I have a whole series on the 2012 version of that, so... Okay, anyway, not to belabor this point or spend way too much time on all of this, it would be kind of cool if we had a list of what's new and what's changed in 2012, and I don't have a complete list of that, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of hunt and peck around, and I'm going to find some of the things that have changed, and I will point those out. Oh, okay, well there's a change. So getting into the quick launch menu here, in the past had a command prompt and a command prompt as administrator. Looks like that's been removed and replaced with PowerShell as saves the menu options, so that's actually probably a really good thing that we've done that, because we're really moving towards PowerShell. The old quick launch, so you're going to get that to overlay. You can see this is a 2012 box, just kind of overlaying that, so command prompt is admin, and let's see, File Explorer, search, run, shutdown has been added in here as well, so that's also new. 2012 R2 now has a shutdown off of this menu. I guess that's probably to respond to folks who didn't like doing it from right over here. So that's kind of cool that's been added in. I haven't checked on Windows 8.1 to see if that's also happened there as well. But so there's a couple of changes. So let's go in and look at add roles and features and see if we see anything jump right out at us on new roles that are available. Oh, that's cool. Look at that. File and Storage Services lists how many of the sub-roles are installed. So it says one of the 12 roles is there. That all looks about the same. That looks the same. Let's break this out and look under File and iSCSI Services and see what we've got there. Oh, okay, work folders. Now I've read about this. So work folders, this is a new concept. This is for syncing. So you can set up a sorry, I had to pause that. Had a little bit of background noise going on there. Okay, so let's say that you had a share that you wanted to be able to sync with. Sorry, had to pause the recording again. Lots of background noise here. Okay, so work folders would be a similar to a file share, but what you're going to do here is you're going to set the work folder up. I'll do a demo on this actually. I'll have another Let's Tech where we walk through and put one of these, because I haven't actually set it up. I've only read about it. But say you wanted a group of users to be able to access a set of files from multiple devices and have them always synced. For instance, if you had somebody on a Surface RT, somebody else just on a corporate domain joined laptop, people from the accounting department, everybody gets to share this one folder, and it can all sync to their local devices. So sort of a couple of combination of technologies we're familiar with, but bottling it all up in one area. So that's kind of cool. And alright, so that looks like that's all that's changed in the File and Storage Services. Ooh, there's a new one. Windows Server Essentials Experience. Okay, so it looks like what we're doing here is, from the description, looks like basically we're going to allow data center and maybe even standard. I don't have this on standard, but for sure this is a data center preview. We're going to be able to put all the Essentials components into the server if we want them. So if you're not familiar with Windows Essentials, it's what became of SBS when that product ceased to ship. But some of the things you get there is a kind of an easier interface for working with adding users and managing the overall environment. There's centralized data store. There's a neat little remote web workplace type of thing. In the later version of Essentials, there was a lot of synchronization with Office 365 and other types of cloud-based integration to do some kind of neat, cool stuff like that. So it looks like we're giving the capability to put the Server Essentials experience on there. So let's see what it puts on when we ask for that. So we got, yeah, just, well, obviously we'd have to have a web server, because that's where, oh my goodness, I'm going to pause the video. But yeah, that's actually going to be really good news for me, because I'm ready to retire my SBS 2011 server and replace that with some additional components, just because I'm limited in my lab as to what I can do with the SBS box. I'd like to have a trust between the Contoso domain that you guys see me do a lot of videos on and the 9Z domain that you see me do a few videos on. It'd be kind of neat to be able to have a forest level trust between them. So, okay. So that's from the roles perspective. I wonder if there's any new features that have changed. We'll kind of peek in on that. Looks like .NET 4.5 already has been installed. It's kind of assuming that I didn't actually cause that to happen, because I checked the box here for these guys. Let me cancel this wizard out and see. I want to make sure that we don't have anything being checked here that wouldn't have been Now it looks like those are on by default. So doing a quick little look through here and see what's. So that's definitely new right there. Direct play. Be intriguing to know what we're going to be able to do with direct play on a server. Let's see, we've got that's all the same. So we still got our IPAM, message queuing. That's new. SMB file sharing support is installed. Okay, so we had an SMB3, and there was a command line utility that you would turn off support for earlier versions of SMB. So now we've got it in here where we can apparently check that or uncheck that if we were doing remove roles and features. And so that'll keep us from having to use command line and PowerShell command. Let's do that. Ooh, there's new SMB bandwidth limit. Looks like we can actually do traffic metering on SMB shares. So that's brand new. That's pretty cool stuff right there. So scrolling down here, I do not see the Unix, which was a subsystem for Unix-based applications. We were told that was being deprecated, so not really terribly surprised to see that that's not there anymore. So, kind of excited about that SMB bandwidth limit. I'm going to be excited to learn a little bit about that for sure. User interfaces in for trusters. We still got min shell desktop experience. I'm guessing they still require a reboot. I haven't read anything about that changing. Probably never will. I mean, that's a massive radical change, not just to the OS and how it looks and feels, but also you got to tell all the apps running on it that we've got a different GUI. Okay, PowerShell. Okay, this doesn't look the same as it did before. It's PowerShell version 4. So we have a new version. I'll be out looking at some new command lines, see how many of those we've added. A huge push internally at Microsoft right now to add all sorts of PowerShell support to everything. It's PowerShell first on pretty much anything we're doing. So there'll likely be a lot of new commandlets that are available. This is a big one, PowerShell desired state configuration service. I may be able to take some time and do a demo on that once I learn more about it. That actually supports configuration management of multiple nodes from a single repository. So that'll be some fairly pretty cool stuff there too. Sorry, have to keep pausing because we got some background noise today. Yeah, so kind of cool stuff in here. And these are broken out a little differently than they were before, so that'll be, oh, for God's sake, just one bit of noise after another. I note that the Windows System Resource Manager is also gone. That is something we've also been expecting, so it looks like we have hit the retirement point for that because it is no longer listed here, as I can see. Alright, so from roles and features standpoint, that's everything I've found so far. So it's interesting stuff too. So looks like that's about the same. Big server manager fan. So I don't think we've really done much in the way of changing here. I've been kind of picking around at it and looks like all of our quick setup stuff is still here, all the same kind of quick links, and the dashboard, obviously we started by looking at that. That looks pretty much like it did. One thing I did run across earlier is when we're in the new Windows UI interface here, if you move your mouse down here, it gives you a link to the desktop. So that'll be not too different than the way it was before, because before you kind of had to hover your mouse down in that area to get it to actually appear. It looks like that's the same one. It's a little bit smaller now, maybe a little easier to get to as well, because it's not pixel 00 I'm noting. It's actually when you get near pixel 00 that it starts to pop up. So little easier on a not full screen VM that you're logged into, or maybe a remote desktop session that's not in full screen. So let's look. This was a big change in Windows 8 8.1 was the ability to resize. So it looks like we can actually make the Internet Explorer a teeny weeny little icon if we want to now. So I bet that probably goes for a lot of these. Small and medium seem to be the choices for anybody who hasn't got anything specifically written. So now with desktop, we actually have a large size. Ooh, that's cool. For those of you who are looking to get to the desktop super duper easy, that would definitely do it. Make this the first thing you can find. You don't even have to worry about finding that. Just put it right there and leave it there, and you can get back to the desktop anytime you want. So it looks like just like Windows 8.1, we support multiple sizes. Large, wide, medium, and the small. Small is going to be neat because I'll be able to fit more stuff on the same screen. So like, let's put that administrative tools and that PowerShell into small, and then I can get 4 icons on a group. Oh, that is so cool. I'm going to really enjoy that. Resize to small. There we go. Pull them over there. Oh yeah, I'm going to like this. This is pretty cool stuff. So awesome. And of course most of those are desktop apps. I do not have the desktop experience installed on here, so I didn't have the store. May do that a little bit later, but I don't think anything from that perspective is likely changed, so there's no reason to do anything on the let's open ISE and see if they've done anything to my favorite little ISE tool here. Okay, looks like it's still taking a moment to load here. It's a VM running on a very highly constrained host, so I'm not too surprised. There are a ton of changes in Windows Server 2012 R2 that are relevant to Hyper-V, and this is a VM, so I can't really install Hyper-V on this and demo any of those new features. So I'll do a completely separate what's new in 2012 R2 with Hyper-V specific information as I start to see that information coming through. I know there's a ton of really new cool stuff I'm not going to give a list on right now because I'll do a different deal on that later. But I'm going to pause the video because this thing is just being silly slow. And, come on, already running a command. Geez, great moment. Alright, there we go. Okay, so we still got our commands reference on the right. We've still got our script pane. So looks like ISE looks about the same as it was before. Yeah, so I guess what I'll do is I'll start making a list. I'll start putting together kind of a couple of what, what other new things do we want to look at. I don't want to do a 20-part series on what's new in 2012 R2. That would be a bit excessive. So we'll just look for deltas, important deltas anyway, between 2012 and 2012 R2. So I'll start putting that together, and I'll get a load of this on a physical box so we can start looking at some of the Hyper-V stuff, because there's some really exciting Hyper-V things that are coming up. So almost close this video out without covering a couple of really important extra pieces and parts here. So let me get the big request parts out of the way here. So the change to the UI to respond to several different people's requests, including one that I just noticed when I was on pause, to change the jump list, for instance, from the PowerShell to admin, is all under the navigation. So you saw I right-clicked, I went to properties on the taskbar, under navigation. So here's the goodies. Here's those of you who have not liked the new Windows UI. This is where you can make some of the changes to the way that the UX, the user experience, is. For instance, if you don't like the charms, when I point to the upper right corner, right now it shows the charms, and there have been some people who don't like that. So if I apply that change, now charms won't get set off when I get this over to the right hand corner. I can still get to the charms by going to the bottom right as a result of having done that. Now, if you have a number of full screen apps running, moving your mouse to the top left corner would get those. I don't have full screen apps because this doesn't have the desktop experience, but if you wanted to turn that off, you just uncheck this. This is what I was just talking about, replacing the command prompt with the Windows PowerShell in the menu. So if I click that and then go back in here and right click, we're back to command prompt and command prompt as administrator. So that's something you may want to change. Now this is automatic on a server. Go to the desktop instead of start when I sign in. So Windows 8.1, you'll have this same checkbox here, and you can turn that on. With server, it pretty much, I'm guessing, doesn't do anything. Showing my desktop background on start, that's going to be definitely relevant to Windows 8 or to Server 2012 after you've installed the desktop experience. In fact, just to illustrate that point, let me install the desktop experience on this thing, reboot it, and we'll see if it actually affects that the way I think it will. So putting the desktop experience is under the features, and it's under the user interfaces and infrastructure. We expand that out and say, give me the store icon on my server, and that will require a restart. So I'll go ahead and check the box just so that we go ahead and get that taken care of. So this is going to allow me to get the desktop experience on there, reboot the server, come back up, watch the fish swim in the black background for a second, and at that point I will unpause the video, and we'll come back in and see if my suspicion is correct that we'll be able to do the show the desktop background on start. Of course, one thing we should do is actually have a desktop background. Otherwise, that's probably not going to work. So we'll look at that here in a second too, and I'll unpause the video and we'll continue after the restart. It took a couple of minutes for sure. Of course, it's got a really slow drive, so anyway, it looks like we're into the reboot cycle now. Typically, this is the part that takes the longest right here. When you get to that spot, you definitely get a cup of coffee. Well, I went to go grab a piece of pizza and I missed the fish. Well, darn it, we'll catch it the next time. Oh, what is this daggum password? Hang on. I have that right. One of these web pages got like... You guys do that where you get like 800 Internet Explorer windows going up by the end of the day? R2 preview exclamation point. R2 IEW. For those of you that don't know what that eyeball is, I love it. You can actually... Isn't that cool? Yeah, I guarantee your administrators, you'll disable that for all your users. It's actually, hopefully, you look over your shoulder before you go and click that little button. But alright, so we're getting logged in here, and there it goes. Okay, so two things that you'll notice right away. After putting the desktop experience on your server will now boot like Windows 8 does to the new Windows UI, to the start screen. And the other thing you'll notice is that the store icon now appears, because you can actually load some of the Windows Store applications. We want to look at the desktop, so we're going to click on that, wait for the server manager to get loaded up. Alrighty, feature installation was successful according to the wizard. We'll close that out. We'll minimize. We'll go back to looking at what we were looking at just a minute ago. First off, though, I'm going to go to the personalize menu, which was not there before because we did not have the user experience stuff installed on it yet. So we'll pick a desktop background. So we'll just use Internet Explorer. So there we go. Got a desktop background. Everybody loves kittens, so kitten. Alright, so we have a desktop background. That was one of the things we needed to kind of do this part here. So we're back to the navigation. So with the desktop experience, I actually could put on some full screen apps, and then you would see some things running up here, but you've probably run into the top left thing already. Alright, so go to the desktop instead of start when I sign in, and bummer, I was hoping that it would uncheck and let me do the show my desktop background on start. I've confirmed this works on my Windows 8 machine, but it looks like we haven't got that enabled yet on server. So always show start on my main display when I press the Windows logo key, and show the apps view when I go into start instead of using the full screen. So let me show you what that looks like, because that's kind of confusing for folks. So remember before I said that you could click the down arrow to get to all applications, and here they are. You can see by default now that's what that is, and I can still go to this, and we'll go there by default. Search everywhere instead of just the apps when I go in from the apps view. So when I start typing and I start searching for something like maybe event, why is my keystrokes not going into the server here? Oh, I think a little bit of lag there. Let's try that again. UV. Are you kidding me? I was looking at perfmon on this host earlier. It literally was up to 65,000 milliseconds of latency. In other words, we're waiting over a minute for a single ERP to process, which is just ridiculous. I'm about to go in there and shoot that server and put it out of its misery. I'm going to pause this and let it get itself caught up for just a second. You can see it's coming off and on and off and on, but it's not actually accepting keystrokes at the moment. So here we go. Alright, trying again. Okay. So, now we will try to search. EVEN. There we go. Now it's actually working. So, okay. Some of the other settings. So, search everywhere instead of just my apps when I search from the apps view. So, let's look from the... Oops, here. So you can see it changes the way that looks a little bit. And it's starting to populate. There you go. So we're getting stuff from event viewer, event logs, and it's giving me some suggestions to go searching out on the internet. And list desktop apps in the first view when it's sorted by category. And it's not by default sorted by category, but I changed that a little bit ago when I was troubleshooting the property. So now you can see that's now changed the layout of how those are arranged. It would be a little bit more evident if I had a bunch of full screen apps, but there you go. That's some of the big changes responding to user community feedback, and so you know, Windows 8 and Windows Server 2012 definitely a radical redesign of the operating system. Changed a few things, and now we've had it out for a little while in the community, and so people are telling us what they'd like to see differently, and so these are several of those types of changes that are in here in the OS. Proving that it is not necessary to actually threaten to murder everyone at Microsoft. That was my favorite forum post, where the guy actually said he was going to drive a truck up to Redmond and blow us up because we took away his start button. I was like, seriously, dude? I mean, you could also get online and say, hey, I don't like this, can I have my start button back? And, well, there you go. So that was kind of whatever. People are a little crazy, but we knew that, right? So, okay. Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to cover in this, because I want to do a couple more just little bits and pieces. As I'd mentioned before, definitely some Hyper-V stuff, but that's going to have to be its own thing. That may be a couple of them, because we had a lot of changes in Replica too. So a lot of stuff to do. But this probably get us a good start for just kind of peeking at it, right? And anyway, guys, this has been Chris with Microsoft, and as always, thanks a ton for watching. If you did find anything about this useful or interesting, give it a quick like if you would, and feel free to subscribe to my channel. Also, my blog is at 9z.com. It's real easy to remember, just the last number and then the last letter, .com. It's got links to my Facebook, my LinkedIn, my Twitter. So anyway, again, thanks a ton for listening, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.